before I get into how we try to combat this type of problems in Sweden, I think I need to address one important thing here in Europe, and especially here in France. Is a big problem in many European countries is that there is a very strong self-image of innocence. The idea, especially after the Second World War, that we have gone beyond race and we don't have a problem with race and racial inequalities. And instead of talking about race, we talk about ethnicity or other emphasis to make this specific problem even less visible than it is today. And the consequences of this is that not only is it a lack of awareness, but also we keep on reproducing these racist structures that we have in our societies. Today we have people in offices, people in general in European societies who do not understand how this history of colonialism and slavery is directly related to present, to today. And the problems with Afrophobia and racism is affecting people of African descent in everyday basis, in every level. We can talk about it when it comes to housing, health services, workforce, and so on and so on. And the problem with that is people in the highest level of offices also share the same self-image that they are liberal, that they are tolerant and open, but at the same time they keep on reproducing the same structures. And because of that, I just want to say that we were talking about this Air France incident, where they wanted, as I understood it, put black people in one airplane and white in another plane. There is actually a specific term for that called Afrophobia. And what makes me very frustrated is I don't hear a lot of people talking about Afrophobia. Afrophobia is a specific, is actually a term that we people of African descent who constructed this term. Because when we talk about decolonization, language is also very important. And this is our way to put a term on something that we describe our own reality. So it's very important that we talk about Afrophobia when we address these kind of problems as Air France, for example. And yeah, when we talk about France and its revolutionary Republican spirit of equality and likes to think of itself as a colorblind society, and the problem with that is they keep on refusing to measure race, ethnicity, or religion. And yet we all know France is undeniable a multicultural and multi-ethnic and multiracial society. And when we talk about race, we need to talk about race as a social construction. And we all know this type of hierarchy exists, but still nobody's talking about it. And I don't know if you know, but 2015 UN declared this decade for people of African descent. And the saddest part about this is that till today there is not even one single policy targeting this oppression that African descent, that people of African descent is challenged with. And we know this is a problem. We know this is a problem throughout the whole Europe. Actually, our President Jallow is also vice chair in ENR, European against. No, I forgot.
Network Against Racism.
Thank you. Yeah, and we actually just published a shadow report, which is one of its kind, that is shown that Afrophobia is spreading and getting bigger and bigger throughout the whole Europe. And we have some copies with us that we are happy to share. So when we are talking about racism and sexism, the only thing I was thinking about, why is nobody talking about intersectionality? Where is that word? And we keep on talking about we cannot measure how it looks like. I don't know if it was you who were talking about it, but we know today, for example, Trade Union Congress actually published a report not too long ago saying that there is a massive pay gap that is getting bigger the more qualification they have, and this is between white people and black people. And there is a 23% gap in hourly pay between black and white university graduates. And what are we doing to this? What are we doing about this? Nothing. Till today, we are not talking about it, and we are all depending on NGOs to fight and talk about this. And it's very sad. I get very, very frustrated and upset about this. But I will just drop some statistic that we have in this ENR report about this fact. And since we know here in France, France is prohibited to collect data about this, which makes it all very illogical, because if you don't know I'll forget my English, but if you don't know the extent of this specific type of racism, how are you supposed to give solutions to that? If you don't know. For example, we don't even know how many black Africans lives in France. Isn't that ridiculous? It is. Because we keep on referring to the Second World War, and we keep on talking about what happened to the Jews, and we keep on saying it's because of that we don't want to collect data. But if you don't collect data, you can never ever give a solution that will change this problem. Now this ENR report showed, for example, in 2014 in Austria, the unemployment rate of people of African origin against national average was 18.8% for African origin compared to national average. The worst part in Europe is actually Finland, where the unemployment rate of people of African origin is up to 41.2% versus the national average, which is 8.7%. We have the same problem in Sweden. We know in Sweden that the highest rate of unemployment is to people with African descent. And it doesn't matter how long you have lived in the country, it doesn't matter how qualified you are. And the statistic actually shows that the more qualifications you got, the bigger, the wider pay gap it is. So it's very important that we talk about this, and it's really important we talk about race. We cannot, I mean, like, by taking away the word race doesn't change anything, actually. It just makes us more invisible, and the problem just getting bigger and bigger. And in Sweden, the hate crimes against black people has increased a lot, actually. Between the years of 2008 and 2014, it increased with 42%. When it comes to, and I know it's the same, we see the same tendencies throughout the whole Europe. And what I would like to see is not only an acknowledgement, but that everybody in here talking about anti-racism and discrimination actually start to use the word Afrophobia and starts to be a part of changing this problem. And I'm sick of coming to every, what do you call it, events, not this one, I love coming here, but we never address this. We never address this. So this is 2016. If we want progress, we need to start to talk about it. And how to combat racism and sexism? Well, first we need to have aggregated data collection about this. We need to know how many people are affected and which level they are affected. And we were earlier talking about the gap between men and women, but how does it look for a woman who is Muslim with a headscarf and also black? What is her possibilities to get a job? And sometimes I used to say, like, most of us don't have that luxury to actually get discriminated in the employment because we don't even have an access to the workforce. But what I'd like to see is an actual policy targeting this group, talking about how we can fight this. And the way to fight racism and discrimination is to fight against it at the same way as we have done with gender equality. Put in diversity plans, affirmative actions. It has to, the companies need to have sanctions, for example. Yeah, and in Sweden we actually just started to collect data, and we are in the process. So hopefully next year, if we are still welcome, we can present this data. Yes. I think that's about it, actually. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.